Well, as you've probably seen, after reminiscing about his high school days, Mitt Romney gave what was billed as his biggest speech about religion in years at Liberty University. That was the site he chose to give his big religion speech. And there was lots of coverage of this speech, but there were some things that really were left out in a lot of the coverage. For example, in the New York Times story, they happened to leave out that Mitt Romney, when he said that the first liberty in the Bill of Rights was religious liberty, was actually wrong. And Mitt Romney went to Harvard Law School. He knows exactly what's the first clause. And the first clause is prohibition of the establishment of religion. And the New York Times piece didn't mention this. And I think that there's a lot of context that has been left out. And I want to put that context back in. And then I want to ask you to do something about it, to do something about the problems that that lack of context presents. Because something else they mentioned about, here it is, this big religious liberty speech at Liberty University, or as I call it, the Unliberty University, and they don't really discuss what type of institution it is. Liberty University is the type of institution that teaches all students creationism studies. In fact, you can't even get a job in their biology department unless you pledge that you believe in young earth creationism in their biology department. They got over $400 million, according to a recent report, via student loans, grabbing our tax money, therefore, and then using it to teach lies. I hate to put it that bluntly, but that's the truth. Lies to young people about science. That's happening in the United States, and it's happening at Liberty University, and this context is not reported. And it's not something that's always true. I went to the University of Notre Dame, a Catholic institution, but their biology department tends to teach biology, actual truth, not try to con people with things that are untrue, using tax dollars as they do at Liberty University. So that context was left out, even though it's widely known that their founder, Jerry Falwell, refused to even have tenure at the institution. And he gave the reason expressly that he didn't want people teaching science that might lead people to not believe in literal interpretation of the Bible. But what do you expect from a guy who said that 9/11 could be blamed on secular people? That's the institution Mitt Romney chose to make his major address on religion. Something else that was left out, they talked about in very sort of tiptoe terms in the New York Times article about their common worldview. And you'd think when they were talking about common worldview between Mormons and fundamentalist Protestants, that maybe you were talking about sweetness and light, or apple pie, mom. But actually, when it came right down to it, the roaring biggest cheer, and this wasn't reported by the New York Times, the roaring biggest cheer in all of Romney's speech, this major speech, was, to treat gay people unfairly. That was the biggest cheer, but that was left out, which is a key part of the context. You know, all these discussions we've been having about bullying and what Romney did when he was 18, what I say is if you really look at Romney's pattern over his life, that bullying, or if you want to put it in a more sophisticated or palatable way, the inside group versus the outside group has been the common thread throughout Mitt Romney's entire career. So going much beyond when he was 18 years old. I give a speech on YouTube called Why Romney's Religion Matters. And that common thread of the inside group versus the outside group is the core of these values. Are you an insider? Then you get special treatment. And so, unlike many, I was not remotely surprised that fundamentalist Protestants would be coming to support Mitt Romney, because they do have a shared worldview, and it has to do with the inside group and excluding those outsiders that really runs as a common set of values. And we see the media, the so-called liberal New York Times, and even the so-called liberal NPR tiptoeing around whenever it has to do with religion. Another example just from this weekend, at National Public Radio, again, so widely alleged to be liberal, they interviewed someone talking about military chaplains. And that person advocated saying, well, religious liberty allows that we not marry gay people. Religious liberty. And the NPR reporter didn't have really the skepticism to say, well, if you follow that principle, then wouldn't it also be reasonable to conclude that a military, government-paid chaplain could say, oh, there's a black person. I don't want black people marrying white people, for example, which was true for many years, and it would violate my religious liberty to marry a couple that's interracial. Well, yes, of course, the same logic would apply, and they didn't even challenge them. They didn't even express the skepticism that you would normally place on anyone else. And so what you have is really bullying. You know, I do a video on YouTube called Can Religion Justify Bullying Children? And the sad answer is, as I demonstrate, time and time again, not only does religion justify bullying children, but they actually get politicians to pass laws to allow for this bullying of children, to give it government imprimatur. It happens all the time. And this common thread between Mitt Romney's 18-year-old situation where that boy was mistreated back in 1965 could be just considered some ancient incident, except that there's a common continuous thread of the inside group versus the outside group, and that we need to do something about it, because whenever it's religion, then we try to powder over it and pretty it up, and the media says, well, let's not actually face it for what it really is, but we're going to face it. We're going to do something about it. You or someone you know knows something about Liberty University, for example. We need to investigate it further with legitimate investigative techniques. I talked to a student at Liberty University who said to me that working on the school paper was kind of like working at a Soviet paper. His words, not mine. But that it was a propaganda situation that he was faced with. It really gave him a great struggle in conscience. And if you think you don't know people from Liberty, well, you just might. They produce many, many teachers. And they've got the same degree after their name, except for these teachers are taught that the earth is 6,000 years old. They go into American public schools with a degree that looks like the same degree as anyone else. They produce biology teachers. They produce psychologists. You know the kind of psychologist, the one that might say, well, we're going to unlearn you to be gay. That kind of psychologist, except the letters after their name are the same as those from any other legitimate institution. We need to expose the realities of Liberty University and have society face this directly in the eye. And in addition to that, we need you to help organize so we can build a broader constituency of people who are ready to engage in investigations like this, ready to organize and speak out about these injustices, which is why it's so critical that we have 50 secular organizations in all 50 states of the Union. I hope that you will study about what Liberty University really is about and spread the word, and then let's work together to say that there doesn't get to be a special label called religion that allows you to do things that would be simply labeled cruel if they didn't have that imprimatur.